So we're going to continue on talking about the negative exponents because that's the piece of information that you need to get from these notes that is probably the most important. I rewrote the two boxes that we ended the last video on. Whenever you raise a base to a negative exponent, you always have to write it as a fraction. In other words, you got to take that downstairs. Take your term downstairs and notice the negative is gone. So once you move it downstairs, you get rid of the negative sign. And there's also going to come some instances where you start off with a negative number already in a fraction. That just simply means you take it out and take it back upstairs, and then notice once you move it, you get rid of the negative sign. So these two rules right here are pretty important, and here's why. You have a sentence there that you need to remember. This is probably one of the most important rules you're going to get from this unit. But when you're dealing with exponents, you never, ever, ever write your answer with a negative exponent. That's just a big no-no. Anytime you are simplifying and you have a final answer with a negative exponent, then you either take it downstairs or depending on where it is, you may have to take it upstairs and you switch the sign and go from a negative exponent to a positive exponent. This is very, very important and it's not going anywhere. It's something you have to remember throughout your math. So what I want to do now is do some problems. If you see there, we've got a couple of problems here that we're going to do. We're going to do all of them because you need to practice. Let's start with example 1, and we'll keep it real simple. Let's say I have 2 times y raised to the negative third power. Now, one thing you need to realize here is that that negative third, that power only belongs to the y. It's 2 times, and you guys are used to putting a little dot here. It's not necessary. Without the dot, you're still multiplying. But the 2 is just a 2. There's nothing going on with it. But the problem is we have this negative exponent. So what we have to do is apply this rule that you just wrote down in that box. If I have a negative exponent, I need to rewrite that as a fraction. So that would be 2 times 1 over y to the third power. I made the exponent go downstairs and I took the negative away. But you can rewrite it to say 2 divided by y to the third power, because 2 times 1 is 2, so the 2 would just go on top. And then you're done. You box your answer. So now I have my final answer, positive exponent, and the reason why I know that it was a negative exponent is because it's in a fraction. Okay? So that's letter A. Now let's look at letter B. Let's move this over a little bit. Letter B, I'm going to give you the expression negative 11 times h, all raised to the negative 2. So now you've got these parentheses. You've got to remember that everything inside the parentheses is raised to the negative 2, but that's a negative exponent. So the first thing we want to do is get rid of the negative exponent by writing all of this as a fraction. So it will be 1 over negative 11 times h raised to the positive 2. But we're not done. You got rid of the negative exponent, which is great, but everything in here is going to get raised to the second power. So let's rewrite it so that happens. It's still a fraction. That's negative 11 squared times h squared. Now, negative 11 squared, you can put it in your calculator. Negative 11 times negative 11 is positive 121. So your final answer is 1 divided by 121 times h squared. And that's what you would box. Okay? Let's do one more before I end this video. If I write letter C says 5 times m to the negative third power times n to the negative fourth power. Well, the only problem with this one is you have those negative exponents. The 5 is fine. The 5 you can't do anything with. But these two have a negative exponent. I need to write it as a fraction. So your final answer is 5 divided by m to the third times n to the fourth